It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you.
Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. This is another edition of Frontline Friday with my very special and regular guest, Bridget Gleason. Bridget, how are you today?
Andy, today is another great day.
Another opportunity to succeed.
Another opportunity to succeed. Yes.
I had a friend that I used to, he's about 10 years older than me, that I used to swim with in San Diego. He was in the same master swim program. And every morning when I saw him, and he was a very successful business person and an investor, and I'd say, Don, how you doing today? He goes, wow, it's another opportunity to succeed. I thought, what a great attitude.
Attitude's everything.
Yeah. Well, he certainly very successful, but he worked hard. So, all right, today we're going to talk about books again. This is one of our favorite topics,
Yay!
Books. And so
one of my very, very favorites, as you know.
Yes. So as you know, at the end of every episode, except Fridays when I talk with you, so 5 days a week, I'm asking guests what book they'd recommend, one book they'd recommend that every sales professional should read. So,
oh, good.
We're up about 400 episodes now. So I've had answers from 400 plus people, actually way more than that because I interview quite a ways in advance, except with you. And, so I tabulated the results to see which were the books that sort of the top 5 books that these world-class, world-leading experts in sales and marketing had recommended. I thought we'd go through that and talk about it. I published a blog post about this, but in case people didn't see that, I thought we'd talk about it on the show today. So you ready?
I'm ready. I can hardly wait.
Okay, so you probably didn't see the blog post then. So this will come as a surprise to you then.
This is good, but I'm now going to look up the blog post because
I was going to ask you, which one did you think was number one? Most?
I don't know. I
take a guess.
I have sales acceleration formula.
No, not even on the list. Great book though, but not even on the list.
It is a great book. Challenger Sale.
No, it's on there, but it's not number one.
Cracking the sales management code. I could just rattle them off. I can rattle them off.
No, the number one book by far, recommended by 400, the 400 people that recommended it, number one was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Okay. Wow. That's good to hear.
I mean, so here's for people that, maybe have heard of this book, they're not familiar with the background. And this book was published in 1936, sort of in the heart and the height of the Depression, the Great Depression. And Carnegie had worked for, I think it was the Armour Corporation, ARMOUR, which was a large meat processor at the time. And I think they had other products as well. But I think he sold lard. It was one of the primary products he sold. And also was a successful teacher of public speaking. He published this book, this really simple book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that I think has been sold over 100 million times, translated into virtually every language on the face of the earth. And the book clearly in the minds of these experts, but also in my mind, is as relevant today as it was when it was first published. I mean, we talk about people buy from the people they know, like, and trust. Well, this is really the guide to tell you how to make that happen.
Andy, what I love about this book being the number one book, and I've read this book numerous times. I will probably read it again, given that Likewise. It's bubbled to the top. And all the things we talk about, and tools and Twitter and LinkedIn and strategies and tactics, and we're doing it on the phone, and how do you get through, and you need 7 touches, and this is still the most important thing. And how you sort of establish that and what are the basics. I couldn't agree with it more. I'm delighted that this just is right there.
Well, yeah, and after you read all the time about, it's all about the science of selling now. It's not about the art of selling. Business to business sales in particular, and B2C maybe even more so in some categories and less in others, ultimately boils down to about a person talking to a person. That's sort of the most influential thing that happens oftentimes in the minds of the prospect. And Carnegie tells you how to make these authentic connections with the people that become your customers, or just people in your lives. And it's straightforward. It just reminds you that as people, even though everything around us has changed, we haven't changed much at all. We may be influenced by technology and distracted by things, but when it comes to how we interact and relate to people, we're still people, still pretty much the same.
That's right. I love that. That's great. That has just now gone back to the top. I will reread that.
Okay. So number 2 on the list, Spin Selling by Neil Rackham. Now, that's not a surprise. I mean, this is a frequently cited book by the guest on the show, and about just a good basic book about business-to-business sales and his whole spin model, the situation, problem, implication, need, payoff, still very relevant for the same reason Carnegie is. I mean, it's not like people have changed. It's a great methodology for salespeople, especially if you're just starting, to embrace.
I'm actually surprised by that one.
Why?
And not because I don't believe it's a great book. I started at Xerox. Mm-hmm. And Xerox, for those of people who don't know, were the creators of spin selling. I've taught spin selling. I have every Neil Rackham book. I've done training. I don't know how many classes. I couldn't be a bigger advocate. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised that with all the new things that are coming out, that people still go back to this. I mean, how old is that, Andy?
1988.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
Just about the time you were born.
Just about the time I was born. I was a child prodigy, so that was what my mother read to me in the mornings.
In the morning, right?
Instead of Goodnight Moon or whatever. I guess you'd read that at night.
So, Bridget, tonight, would you like Goodnight Moon or spin selling?
Or spin selling. I want spin selling. So that's God, that is such a great fundamental. The thing that people don't have, I don't think people always know. I recommended a book to somebody. It was actually a sales manager, Cracking the Sales Management Code.
Yeah, Jason Jordan, very good book.
And she finished it and said, "Oh, it's a great book. Read it in a day." And I said, "Well, it's easy to read the book. It's hard to do what's in it." Mm-hmm. And I think about spin selling, and I feel the same way about spin selling. I think it's a great book to read. The key is actually to implement what you read and to practice. And it takes a lot of practice to get good at it. It's a good fundamental, but the real work is in what you do after you read the book.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things with spin selling and the other similar systems, perhaps Miller Hyman, Sandler, where, quite frankly, my experience has been it's hard for an individual to read it and say, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, if the whole organization isn't really thinking on the same way. I mean, I think that's one of the value of spin selling. You've seen in organizations like Xerox and others that have embraced it and still continue to embrace it is, they're creating a common terminology, a common methodology, so that, rightly or wrongly, whether you think it's the best thing in the world or not, everybody at least is aligned with how they're trying to make things happen, how they talk to customers, how they understand, and categorize things throughout their process. And I think there's value in that. And so that's why I think it's hard for the individual sometimes to sort of embrace it and use it the same way.
I completely agree with that. And I know you and I have talked about this before, but I think one of the many reasons that the spin selling model was so successful at Xerox was because of the ongoing training, reinforcement, that you knew I could listen to any conversation around me. I could be in any sales meeting. I could talk to any sales engineer or colleague, and we're all on the same page. That methodology was continually being reinforced, and that's what made it so powerful. If it had been a one-off and we did it, and some people did it, some people didn't, it wouldn't have been the same. You're absolutely right. That reinforcement and ongoing practice and sort of how you think about it within a company is so critical.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so third on the list, the Challenger sale.
Okay, at least I got one. A new one. At least a new one got on there. So far, that's the most modern one on there. I can't wait to hear what the others are.
Well,
they're written in stone tablets in Arabic.
There's actually 8 altogether because
we had a
four-way tie for 5th.
Okay.
So Challenger sale third. I don't know if we need to spend much time talking about the Challenger sale. People are sort of familiar with it. Certainly, again, one of those books embraced primarily by large enterprise, selling more complex products. They've had some detractors with the book who, don't think there's anything new in it. But whether that's true or not, I think that, the central message of the book in terms of, the whole idea of being a challenger, still very relevant. And, my question has always been, how scalable was it? Because to me, I'm not sure we sort of talked before about, people having a certain aptitude for system sales and so on. I think, the same thing is somewhat true at the Challenger is that, not everybody has the aptitude to be able to do it. And so that's why I think sort of the shortcoming of trying to say we're going to scale this because, quite honestly, it's, in my experience, it's been, a relatively small fraction of sales reps that can really embrace it and do it effectively.
So you think that you look at the spin selling model, and that can be more easily and widely adopted than more people. Huh? Why?
Well, I think that,
and I'm just curious. I don't know that I agree or disagree. I'm just curious.
Well, I think that again, this is based on my experience, is when you're selling really large enterprise deals, complex deals, is to effectively challenge sort of the customer's paradigm of what it is that they think they're buying and why, and being able to justify why they should change that paradigm, which is a hugely effective competitive strategy and one that I've used to great effect throughout my career. It's not easy. It takes this person with systems thinking. It takes a person with deeper acumen. I mean, anybody can be scripted with a question to say, at this time, ask this question. But unless you can really follow up with the knowledge and the acumen and the insights, it's not going to be effective.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, I think that's probably true. I would agree with you that the spin selling model is maybe it's a little bit more fundamental. I don't know that it's simpler. It's a different way of thinking about it than the Challenger sale.
Well, I think it's also more broadly applicable. So I think that's another part of it too.
Now that's true. Yeah, it's more broadly applicable. I would agree with that.
Okay. Well, good. God, I got you two agreements from you. Excellent.
Number four.
Any guesses?
I've been wrong on all my others.
For $10,000.
I'm going to make up. I'm going to sell is human. Dan Pink. I like that one.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that's tied for 5th. So number 4.
Okay.
Number 4, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
I was wondering if we were going to get another oldie but goodie.
We did.
Yeah, that's an interesting one that's on there.
Because?
I guess I have the same. So I'm pleasantly surprised that it's almost like we're going full circle. It's like bell bottoms are coming back. And I just love that.
Hip huggers and bell bottoms.
Hip huggers, bell bottoms, who knows what's next. I like that some of these just timeless classics are really that, and they are proving to be that because they keep coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there's another one later on the list we'll talk about too. It's some sort of similar vein, but yeah.
Do you think, Andy, do you think people know that book? Like people in sales, I hear them talk about Dale Carnegie's book and Spin Selling and Challenge Your Sale. Do you think that Think and Grow Rich is on a typical new salesperson's bookshelf, be it virtual or otherwise? Do you think that one's on there?
Probably not. I think, even though it's, I think, as almost probably as widely sold as Think and Grow, or as the Carnegie book, How to Win Friends, Influence People. I think that it's different. It's more of a motivational, inspirational type book as opposed to a real handbook that Carnegie's book is. And I interesting, of the people who recommended it, if I look back through my memory about it, it was people from fairly broad age range. But I think you don't hear it talked about as much as you do Carnegie. I agree.
Yeah, but it's a classic. It's a great one.
Yeah, for inspiration, how to achieve your goals in life, which applicable
I like
to sales, your personal life, and so on. He's got a 13-step formula. It's well worth people reading. I mean, it's a relatively quick read. I mean, it's a good sized book, but it's well worth going through.
Yeah, I would agree. I like that's great. Okay, now our tied for fifth, and you said there's several on the list, and I already got one of them, which I feel really, really happy and proud.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll start with that one. So the 4 books that tied for fifth. One is the first, or not the first, but one is To Sell as Human. The Surprising Truth About Moving Others by Daniel Pink. So this is a New York Times bestseller. Sort of starts with the premise that increasingly most of us in the workforce, whether in sales or not, our job entails influencing others. I think in the book he gives a statistic. I think it was close to 3/4 of white collar employees surveyed say there's some aspect of their job that involves influencing others.
Well, you look at Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Sure.
It's definitely a part of it.
So in some sense, what Pink was saying is, we're all in sales. And
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was not, this is not a book of sort of practical sales advice or.
That's true.
Simply conveyed. And I thought, quite frankly, he missed an opportunity to provide some of that. But well worth reading.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that book. And again, it's not a tactical, I'm going to sell better, but I just think if you're interested in the profession of sales, if that's who you are and what you do, it's a great read. Right.
Well, another way to sort of consider the profession you're in is in sales, you're this is not a phrase that I came up with. I think it's Robert Cialdini in one of his books, their Influence, or his new one, Persuasion, came up with this term, influence professional. And that's somewhat what we do.
That's a good term.
Right, as salespeople.
That's a good term.
So, if you're an influence professional, then reading a book like To Sell as Human, any of Cialdini's books, numerous others about how people make decisions and how they're influenced, you want to read those. You want to get into it. You understand the psychology of decision making.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, unfortunately, none of those made the list, but so
I know. Okay,
another of those that those tied for fifth
Number
place
5
is this is for you to guess.
No, I've been guessing. I keep guessing wrong.
Okay, is New Sales Simplified: The Essential Handbook for Prospecting and New Business Development by Mike Weinberg, good friend of mine. And it's a good book. It's, if you haven't read it, I think it's, sort of a modern classic, actually. Mike's a very, very blunt and direct way of conveying his message. And in the book talks about what you're doing wrong and what you can do to do better. And provides a really sort of simple framework for new business development, for prospecting. Really
okay, good. I love the new classics.
So you read Mike's book?
I have read it, but I think that one I need a reread because I don't I don't have it top of mind.
Okay.
So you put that back on my list, especially since it hit the top 5.
The top 5, 8. Right.
Top 5, top 8.
Okay. So 2 more on the 4-way tie for 5th. The next one is The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino.
Okay, here we go. We've got another of the greatest hits.
Yeah.
Short book.
Short book. Now, I hadn't read it until relatively recently.
Really?
Yeah, when people started suggesting it. So within the last 6 months or so, I picked up and read it for the first time. Yeah, short book. It's written as a parable. Really about developing, the essential sales behaviors or behaviors in general, not say sales behaviors, that will help ensure sort of a lifetime of success and fulfillment, not just monetary success. And I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was as good as a number of the other ones. And sort of a caveat for people that read it, it's fairly religious based.
Yeah, I read that one. I've read that one more than once. I read it a number of years ago, and I liked it. It wouldn't be on my hit parade, but I can understand why it's on there. It's a decent book.
Well, it's definitely well written. I mean, that's
definitely well written.
Yeah, the guy has flair. He wrote a number of books. Yeah, very well written. But yeah, I think there are other places to get the same information that perhaps more effective for you. But I know a lot of people that enjoy reading parables, about business books that are basically parables. And if you're one of those people, then yeah, pick this one up. I mean, it's easy to read, and certainly there's value in it.
Right. Okay. Good.
Okay, so the last one.
Yes.
Book called Zero Time Selling.
Yay! One of my favorites.
Yeah. So I was
that fantastic author, and he knows the people to interview too. That's one of the things I really like.
Yes, very smart individual. Yes.
And I hope that one stays on the classic list, Andy, because your book. It's a quick read. It's relevant. It's widely applicable. Immediately actionable. Zero time selling. It's I give that one also big +1.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So Zero Time Selling. People didn't know that's yours truly as the author. 10 essential steps to accelerate every company's sales. And yeah, I was sort of surprised. I knew I'd lost track. I knew several people had mentioned it over the year and a quarter that we compiled the results from. But yes, gratifying to be included in that company.
That's good. And boy, what great company you're in.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing that I've been doing with some clients is putting together a 12-month reading list for them. And, if people are interested, I can certainly share that with you. Actually, it's a service that we sell is that we provide reading guides, and we provide either a monthly or a quarterly, depending on what their choice is, virtual book discussion or a book club, if you will, where we'll talk about it. But the key thing that for companies that are interested, if you want to contact me about this, stipulation that I have is that if you're going to do this program, it's got a twist. And the twist is that you're required to, as a manager, to provide time during the business day for people to read.
Yeah, you and I've talked about that.
Yeah. So before. You have to allocate 15 to 20 minutes per day for your people to read. You don't.
Love
it's
it.
not a homework assignment. You're not going to send it home because that's not going to happen. They're going to sit in front of the TV and not read it. So we really have 2 parts: is you're going to buy them a notebook, and you're going to buy these books every month, and they're going to read for 15 minutes, and then they're going to journal for 5 minutes and reflect on what they read. And
That's
then you're going to
fantastic.
talk about that every week in your sales meeting. And then during the course of the year, we modify how the people reading the books, how they report on what they do, to where it would do at the end in the last couple months is actually they put together videos, weekly video reports that they submit to the manager and actually to me as well. And so they get a chance to get some practice at formulating their thoughts and speaking in public. So it's a pretty comprehensive program and a great reading list. So if people are interested,
it's a great program.
Yeah,
great program.
Contact
That's
me.
a lot of content, though. I don't know that I would do 12.
Well, actually,
I just think to really integrate all of that is a lot.
Well, it's a variety of books, and some that are easy reads like Carnegie, some that are a little more challenging. So some of it is things that are immediately applicable. Some are really, we're here to test, not test you, but test your brain, right? Expand your brain. We want you to think more broadly about things. So, some are very, very practical. Some are a little more challenging for perhaps some salespeople, some customer-facing people, but the exposure is really valuable.
Fantastic. Love it.
And
I could talk about books every single time, but that might bore the rest of the people.
Well, we could, right?
I'm not a big TV watcher, so you put the printed word in front of me and I'm all over it.
Yeah, over Thanksgiving when we were together with the family and I watch some TV. I love sports on TV, big soccer fan. I've got certain shows I watch, but yeah, I have there's so many things on TV these days that I just don't have time to watch it all. And, our kids are sitting there talking about, well, do you watch this? Do you watch this? Do you watch that? Have you watched this? Have you streamed this? It's like, well,
no,
no, I'd like to. And so my wife and I do on our big travel vacations is we binge watch,
that's fun.
If we go from New York to Hawaii and 6-hour time difference. And so we're waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah, we'll binge watch for a few hours before we start the day. So
that's fun.
Yeah, it's a good way to catch up. That way we can still read. All
Love
right.
it.
So, do you have a recommendation? One book every salesperson should read?
God, I read so many sales books. I mean, some of them you've hit and we've talked about. I just love the philosophy. I love To Sell Is Human. I think it's a great book. I can't argue with How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so now, if people are listening to Accelerate Now, is so I've sort of changing up that question. And so now the question is more about, okay, recommend a book that you think salespeople should read that has nothing to do with business or sales. We got some interesting answers, and we'll compile that, and we'll maybe
that's a great one.
A year from now, we'll talk about.
We'll talk about those. What the top 5 are.
Yeah, because I want people to, I think salespeople should read Shakespeare, or read poetry. Because it's all about communication, how you use words to great effect. Which I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I like to read a lot around sales and business, but then I also read a lot of things that don't seem tangential, but to me they end up being tangential, like poetry and Shakespeare and some of the classics. So I like the well-rounded sort of interdisciplinary study.
But I also think it's we're in the business of speaking, right? Communication. Salespeople. We use our words. This is what we do, and if you can get into books like, I just use Shakespeare as an example because I'm a Shakespeare fan and will read it in my spare time. Just seeing how people use words to communicate more effectively, and the imagery and the metaphors. And I've had a guest on my show talking about how to communicate more effectively through metaphors. That's really important, and a skill that people should look at picking up. And it's part of it's through reading. Poetry is all about metaphor.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay.
Well, great. Wonderful.
As always.
I got to fly.
I
got to
know,
go.
you literally have to fly. I know you are flying.
No,
so
I really do.
A pleasure, as always.
As always, Andy. And we'll look forward to the next time.
Yeah. And friends, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here. And make sure if you're at least come back next Friday. I'm sure you're all listening throughout the week to Accelerate, but be sure you come back next Friday with my next conversation with my friend, Bridget Gleason.
Great to talk to you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.